Some of us are outwardly successful, but inwardly feel unhappy and living a life lacking in purpose and meaning. The Necktie and the Jaguar by Carl Greer can help you discover what's important to you and how to go for it. For more information or to purchase the book, visit carlgreer.com. That's CarlGreer.com. Welcome to What is Going Om, for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on OMTimes' flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. After many months of a global pandemic that has rapidly and relentlessly erased virtually every certainty in our lives, it's become clear that there's no going back. Even as we were sheltering in place, there was an awareness that our lives were speeding up. Now, with so many radical and frequent changes to navigate in how we live, work, interact, travel, and communicate, day-to-day life feels like a relentless, accelerating roller coaster ride that could go off the tracks at any moment. So, how do we find the balance we need to regain some sense of control and feel that we're thriving and not just surviving this incredibly chaotic time of transition? With me today to provide some clarity on the evolutionary changes we're all experiencing and share some insights and tools to help us flow with the evolutionary speed of change and actively participate in the creation of our own and our collective future is author, speaker, Executive Vice President of Heartmath and Steering Committee member of the Global Coherence Initiative, Howard Martin, who's been helping people around the world learn how they can access their heart's intelligence to create positive and sustainable change for nigh on 25 years or more. Howard Martin, welcome.
Sandie, it's good to be with you again. It's been a little while since I've done an OM radio event, and it's good to be with you and all the listeners.
Yes, it's certainly been a while since we spoke, and looking at your website, you guys have been going gangbusters.
We stay pretty busy, yeah. It's amazing, how big all this has gotten for us. When we started out, just young men and women with the intention of creating a system based upon, the heart's intelligence that could assist people through changing times. Little did we know it would evolve into everything that HeartMath is today. I've been so fortunate to have been a part of it and to experience the ride, so to speak. And what's cool about it for me, Sandie, is that there's no ceiling on this. It continues to grow, continues to unfold, and I think now HeartMath is more relevant in these times than it ever was. It's almost like I feel we were designed for these times in a way.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say it really does look as though, looking back over the last 20 months, that this is the defining moment for which HeartMath was created.
Well, I think so. I think we realized that too when the pandemic started, and you laid out, I think, very eloquently what this pandemic has been like for a lot of people. And when it started, there was a feeling of an opening in many people, where they were sensing that something different and important was happening, and that there was an opportunity to use these times to take that pause and to recreate themselves and to recreate a new world. What happened, however, was that none of us expected it to be this severe and to last this long. So I kind of watched the spirit dip over time, and people naturally fell into feelings of sadness and hopelessness, and in many cases depression and feelings of loss about what they'd had, and all of those things began to permeate consciousness very strongly. I'm seeing a rebound now in people, and I'm seeing that they're recognizing what this has been about, and they've seen the changes in themselves, and they've seen that those changes are very positive in the reevaluation of their life. They've made choices about what they want in their life and what they don't. They've become more discriminate in deepening the relationships with some people and just letting the others go. They've been evaluating what they do for a living, and we know that there's a global shortage of workers, for example, in certain types of jobs, because people just decided, I'm off that treadmill now. I'm not going back to that.
Yes.
So you see the spinning of it all. It's spinning us in a direction to where the evolution is actually happening as a result of the pandemic. And I think that's a hopeful perspective in the midst of, the challenges, but it's one that I actually see. I don't have the exact name of the article. I wish I did in front of me right now. But if the listeners could go to Forbes magazine, you can go online, Forbes magazine. There's an article in there about a very large study done really recently with big Harris poll analytics in it of over 100,000 people, and what they were feeling, what they were seeing, and it was extremely hopeful. Many of them were feeling hopeful. High percentage of those people were feeling hopeful. They were, again, pleased about the changes that had been occurring in their life and the reevaluations that had led to certain approaches to life that were missing for them before. So the whole thing really was just a statistical understanding of something that I've already felt, which is there is an upward momentum somehow, some way in all of this that's moving us to a different place.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. I mean, looking at, we're seeing it in England too, how many people are saying, do you know what, I actually like having more time. I don't want to commute anymore. I don't want to spend the money. I can do other things with it, and I don't want to waste the time. I can spend that with my kids. Or, they're doing second businesses. They're turning their hobbies into something that they could grow to sustain their family, so that they don't have to worry about, working in an office for a living. And this time that people have had, as you say, they went through the dumps, and then they came and they started really thinking about nature, because they've been out in it more, and thinking about other things and how they'd like to live. So I love that this positive side of it is emerging at last.
Well, here's what I think. I think that, where this evolutionary curve has been moving us towards is towards more unification rather than separation. And I know on a linear level it does not appear that way, because we see so much of the separation that's happening, the political separation, all kinds of separation. I don't need to go through the list necessarily. But actually the momentum is moving towards a unification and bringing people together, but also, first of all, bringing us together with ourselves. Making that deeper connection with our true, authentic self inside, and then moving outward into how we relate to other people and how society functions, and ultimately in how the world and the globe functions. So the energetic or evolutionary momentum is one of bringing more coherence and unification. So I think that what's been happening in all this is that we had to find that through going deeper into what HeartMath, of course, calls heart. The qualities of the heart, the intuitive qualities, the caring qualities, the compassionate qualities, the loving qualities, all of those various qualities of what have been assigned to and associated with heart, that had to manifest somehow for us to move towards learning to get along better. And something like the pandemic was almost a necessity for that to happen. Without something like that, the mechanicality of the patterns in which we live and the way we think and the way we feel would have just continued. We had to have a pause and, in a way, a global shock to put us to a place where we do find more of our true heart. Whether people call it that or not, they probably don't. But it's really, to me, accessing that part of ourselves that's been long called heart, which is where our real self lives, where our true, authentic self actually comes from, and where those emotional qualities that I mentioned a minute ago actually manifest from. So we had to find more heart somehow in the global unfoldment in order to take the next steps towards unification rather than separation. And I think the pandemic has served a role in that.
Yeah. And, you can look at this as the glass half full or half empty, but some people say, oh, well, look what's happening. There's so much division in politics these days. Look at what's happening in Afghanistan and other countries where there are so many people that are still being killed. But I think when you look at it from the glass half full, is that you see that alongside all of those things, this is happening. This uptake, this, more heart-centered approach to living that happens simultaneously. So for me, that is a positive sign, because we've got one that ultimately can balance out the other.
That's true. And I think what we have to do now is to ground that. In a term we use often in HeartMath when we speak about these things is anchoring things, which means making them solid, putting an anchor in, so that they become part of who we are. And so I think we can have these realizations, we can have these moments of inspiration, and they're important. These insights that we have, these glimmers into a more hopeful future, and they're really, really important to have these days because things can look so dire often. But we now have to take that and anchor it. What does that really mean? What changes are we making that are going to last? And that, again, takes heart to make that happen. Other than that, it's just more mind stuff just flying around in there. It's like we can become insight junkies, Oh, the next insight. Oh, I learned this. Oh, I learned that. Well, that's good and it's important. I'm not down on it in any way. But it's what we anchor that makes the real difference. What do we change that is now the new for us? That's now the real part of us and how we live our lives. And that's the next step, I think, in this whole process is to anchor the insights that we've gained from something like the pandemic and then use those to move forward.
Yeah, I was looking at your website earlier, and I was looking at some of the statistics. The improvement in various areas of people's lives after using HeartMath training and technology. And given, that we've got this huge pandemic of depression that I would like to think that people are beginning to come out of, now that they're seeing it differently. But you noticed a 56% drop in depression and a 46% drop in anxiety after HeartMath training. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, yeah, I think it is. And this is what you're seeing on our website is a collection of a data collection from studies that we've done working in workplaces, actually, with HeartMath training. And the numbers that you see on the homepage of our website are from 11,500 plus people. And they've had some HeartMath training. And you see these amazing shifts that occur, that, like you said, there's a 56% drop in the feelings of being depressed, 46% drop in feelings of anxiety, a 48% drop in fatigue, and then improvements in calmness, ability to sleep, improvements in ability to focus. All this is happening. Now, this is a statistically important this data. It's done with a survey called the Personal and Organizational Quality Assessment, which we developed with the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School here in the United States years ago. So it's a well-known, statistically valid, scientifically validated survey instrument that gets this information. Now, when I began to look at this data, it was amazing to me. And the reason it was is because they didn't have that much HeartMath training. It wasn't like this went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and years for them to have these results. It was happening in people from different types of companies in different parts of the world who had like 1-2 day HeartMath trainings and then encouragement to practice for the next 6 to 9 weeks. And we saw these amazing shifts in the way people were able to feel and function and behave. And what that let me know is that a little bit of heart goes a long way, I guess is a simple way of saying it. That when we make that connection with something we really already have inside, Sandie, then changes begin to happen quickly. So it's a matter of reconnecting with something rather than reinventing something. We have heart. We were born with it. It's part of who we are. We have more access to the feelings and qualities of heart when we're younger, and they kind of get programmed out of us as we get older. But the road home is not as long as people may think. And when we reconnect with that part of ourselves, as I said a minute ago, and as the statistics that we see on our website illustrate, change happens, and it can happen really quickly.
Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar with HeartMath, tell us what kind of training, what specifically were those people learning to do?
Well, we have a whole series in what's called the HeartMath system of techniques that really incorporate, there's one fundamental component of that, of all the techniques, and it's really focusing the attention in the area of the heart, the physical heart, in the center of your chest. And then the next step in most of our techniques involves what's called heart-focused breathing. People can do this while I describe it that are listening if you'd like. So you focus your attention in the area in the center of your chest, the area of the heart. And then you breathe naturally and normally in a rhythm that's comfortable for you, but maybe deeper than normal. But just make sure that the breathing is comfortable. And as you breathe, you begin to imagine as if the breath is actually flowing in and out through the center of your chest, to the area of the heart. The next step in that process is, to me, the most important one, and it's activation of a regenerative, uplifting feeling. So while someone is doing heart-focused breathing, they try to feel a feeling, let's say like appreciation for the good things that they have going on in their life. Or maybe the feeling of the love or care that they have for someone or something, a pet, person, place, anything in their life. Or a feeling of well-being, that things are really okay. And breathing that feeling in and out through the area of the heart. So those three steps are core in most of the HeartMath techniques, but then we expand those techniques into things like decision-making, communication, emotional self-regulation, and then ultimately into radiational type techniques that have, the ability to help, influence the global field of consciousness. And we package all those up into training programs that we have for just people, whether not just people in organizations, but to people, who just want to improve themselves. And then there's a technology component, which I'll talk about in a minute. But if people want to learn HeartMath, there's a way you can do that, get the fundamentals of HeartMath learned, and you can do it for no cost, absolutely free. And this is not a sales pitch. This just came up. I didn't have any idea, Sandie, what we talk about today. So this wasn't planned, but here we go. If you go to the heartmath.com website and you click on Our Training, you'll see immediately a tab for what's called the HeartMath Experience. And this is the program. It's about a 90-minute program divided into short chapters. It was something that I am honored to say had the lead role as a producer on. And what we wanted to do when we were making it is we wanted to produce it like it was a learning experience. In other words, it was not like just taking a course. It was something that you would enjoy watching, something that would feel more like a cinematic approach to learning rather than a structural, training program. But within it, 6 HeartMath tools are actually shared in this program. So we did this, and it came out what we thought was really good, and we started to sell it. And right after we started to sell it, the pandemic came. And the founder of HeartMath is a man named Doc Childry. And Doc came to us and said, look, we got to get some help to people. We got to get it to them now. We want them to have some HeartMath tools and techniques, and we want them to have something to look at that can lift their spirit while they're all locked down in their homes and everything. So for a while, why don't we offer it for free and just put it out to the world for no charge? So we did that. And some of our colleagues, other organizations that are associated with us or have a relationship with us, other authors, other speakers, they all got behind this and sent the information to their people as well. As a result, hundreds of thousands of people looked at this. They downloaded the link, hundreds of thousands. And so we've never gone back to charging for it again. And what I realized is back when I was helping to produce this, is that the vision of what it would be was different than what came out in terms of how it was being used. And I had the same realization we talked about earlier, Sandie, like, oh, I get it now. That's what this whole thing was about. This was for the times that were coming.
Yeah.
I didn't know it at the time, but now we've never charged for it again. And hundreds of thousands of people all around the world have looked at this thing, and we've subtitled it, and I forget how many languages now, like probably 10, 12 languages. So if you're listening to this from another country, you can get it probably in your language and see the subtitles. And so I urge anyone who's listening that wants to learn more about HeartMath tools and techniques, you'll learn 6 of them in this program. Just go and watch the HeartMath experience.
Well,
that would be the
Howard,
most fun thing you can do. Go ahead.
You said that you had no idea what we were going to be talking about, but I really believe there's been some coherence going on because you're preempting everything that I wanted to ask you.
Well, we have these questions we submit and everything, but and I know you do a lot of interviews with people, and I do a lot of interviews, and sometimes these questions are only starting points or guides for what becomes a conversation.
Yeah. But that on your website, the experience is something that I had noticed earlier, and I really wanted to make sure that people got to know about that. So thank you for doing my job for me.
Yep.
So tell us, heart intelligence, connecting with the intuitive guidance of the heart, is one of the titles that you've contributed to. How do you define heart intelligence?
Well, let me describe it. I could come up with a definition, but I think a description of it might give people a better sense of what we're speaking about when we talk about the heart's intelligence. It's a high-speed intelligence. It is kind of the doorway into what we call intuition, into accessing the field of intuition. It's a type of intelligence that we have that leads to more direct knowingness of certain things. It doesn't just rely upon logic and linear approaches to figuring things out. It's a type of intelligence that is the birthplace of some of the emotional qualities that we tend to benefit from the most. And they would be feelings that I've mentioned already in our time together, Sandie, like more appreciation or more care, compassion, love, kindness, non-judgment, wisdom, courage, nobility. All these feelings that are sort of associated with heart, sort of birthplace from this intelligence. It's the type of intelligence that allows us to become more than we think we can be. When we're in touch with our hearts, then we become the best that we are, and we often exceed our expectations. And you hear the statements about heart sort of made in the general conversations and lexicon, so to speak, in society. What a great team they are because they play with so much heart, that kind of thing. They're talking about they're accessing something than their normal selves. It's the intelligence that we have that we find our self-security from. When times are tough, when we go through hardships in life and challenges, we usually look a little deeper inside trying to find a way to deal with that. Either find an answer or find a way to accept or to make peace with something. And we'll go deeper within ourselves. And people do it different ways. Some do it through prayer, some do it through meditation, some do it through just taking a walk in nature. Different ways that people go about that process, but what they're doing is they're looking for something that's beyond just their mind, right? And when they do, they find their heart, and that's where the intelligence lives. They find this place inside that offers a sense of well-being and self-security, even in the midst of challenges. So the last thing I'll say about it, and I've said this many times, but I still believe it's true today. To me, my heart's intelligence is my own best friend.
Yeah.
It's the most reliable guide that I have to making sense of life, to making the choices that I need to make, whether it be big choices or little choices. And it's my heart that gives me that guidance. It's like my own internal best friend that's helping me, giving me whispering the insights that I need, or to provide that friendship feeling that I need inside sometimes when things are not going the way that I want them to. And all that adds up to what we call the heart's intelligence. Now, we can go into this if you want, and you can ask a question that will lead us there, but let me just say that that's a nice way of describing something that I hope people can resonate with. But at HeartMath, we've taken all that a step further because one of the most important parts of HeartMath is scientific research. We have underpinned everything we put out to the world with scientific research, and I think that's what we're best known for. I think that's only a part of HeartMath, and I'm always hopeful that people know us for more than that. But what we're most known for is the amazing scientific research that we've done over a 30-year period, which includes a better understanding of the heart's intelligence.
Yeah. It's the part that I always used to call the typo in my tummy, except it was actually a bit higher, and I realised it's coming from my heart. Yeah. It's that inner guidance system that never, ever puts you wrong.
That's right. I've learned to trust it over the years. A lot of times it's definitely gone against what my personality wanted. But I've learned a lot of times the hard way that if I really do follow it, even if I don't like it at the time, ultimately it leads to something much better than I actually could have imagined. So it just takes a while to get that. It's taken me a while to get it, but that's sort of the way I always try to approach life now, is to push past the resistances and go ahead and allow the heart to give me the guidance that it needs.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned the research that you do. I mean, it is absolutely pivotal fundamental and absolutely necessary, and it is so timely that you did it when you did. I know it's still ongoing, but that there is enough of it there right now when we need it. Yeah, what an inspired person Doc was.
Yeah, he definitely is an inspired person. Without Doc Shorter, there would be no HeartMath. He's amazing in his vision and his guidance and his insights and his continuation of all of that, which he's provided for HeartMath for many years. And, he's not a public figure. He's not the kind of person that you see pictures of around a lot, and he certainly doesn't do interviews and things like that. He just chose a different way of serving without the attention being so much on him. And he always said in the beginning he never wanted the attention to be on him. He wanted it to be on the HeartMath itself, on the system, and that there would be different people along the way who would have a more, let's say, public figure relationship to HeartMath. I became one of those. But that it was not about that. It was about people. It was about the system of HeartMath itself. It was not so much about us. It was about what other people had inside themselves. And that has been a guiding principle for me today in how I've approached being an author and a speaker and someone being interviewed. It's like, yes, I'm honored to have that opportunity, and it does provide fulfillment to me, but I always approach it as an act of service rather than something I'm trying to gain something from.
Yeah, absolutely. And Global Coherence, obviously the Global Coherence Initiative, Global Coherence is a major aim. How are you measuring this, and are you finding it dropping at the moment or increasing?
Well, it's difficult to say about that second part of the question, but let me explain what the Global Coherence Initiative is. It's something we started about 8 or 9 years ago to bring people together from all around the world to use their heart focus and their care and their intention to create more feelings of harmony, cooperation, and enduring peace. So at the time we did it, there were, and there still are today, a lot of organizations that are doing something similar, and they're doing it with, global meditation exercises and things like that, and OM probably does some of that as well. And we felt, okay, we shouldn't be making a contribution to this. We're not trying to be the biggest thing out there doing it, none of that type of ambition, but let's play in that area. We played a pretty conservative game along the way, and that's how we were able to take heart and place it in such mainstream societal context that we've done, like, military, police forces, first responders, hospitals, Fortune 100 companies, all that. But now we wanted to expand it a little bit and say, let's take this to another level, and let's talk about the energetics associated with heart and the energetics associated with influencing fields of consciousness and things like that. So we got into that part of service. And we had people, of course, from all over the world that joined and became part of the Global Coherence Initiative. And if you want to become a member of Global Coherence Initiative, you go to our nonprofit's website. And it's just heartmath.org, O-R-G, rather than .com. And there you can find out everything you need to know about the Global Coherence Initiative. And then other friends and other authors and speakers became part of of our advisory board members, people like Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart, people that are into this field of consciousness that are associated with us and friends of ours. So we put together a scientific team as well, and on it went. But at the very beginning, we built in a scientific component. And what our researchers have done is they have created very sensitive measuring devices that can measure changes in what I'm going to call the Earth's energetic fields. Planet Earth, the physical planet Earth, produces a couple of very important energetic fields. One is called the geomagnetic field. Most people have heard of that. It's what a compass measures. The other is called the ionosphere, which is a field that starts just above the atmosphere and goes about 100 miles up into space. And it works in consort with the geomagnetic field to provide a protective layer around the planet. And we're just think about it like Earth ecology. These fields are there for a reason. They are what protects us from incoming space weather, solar radiation, solar flares, cosmic rays, solar winds, etc. If the fields didn't exist, the planet would not exist as we know it. Nothing that we could associate with life would be on it. Now, these fields are constantly fluctuating and changing, usually because of changes occurring in the sun's activity. And there's been lots and lots of research already done, lots of great research, and even movies and things about it, about how these Earth's fields are affecting us, how changes in the Earth's fields are affecting human health and human behavior at an individual and mass level. So this is well documented now that changes occurring in these fields are affecting us.
Yeah.
So we wondered if that communication was a two-way street. This is now good old American Southern boy logic here. If these things are talking to me, maybe I'm talking to them. So our scientists developed very sensitive technology that can measure changes occurring in the fields, and they have been deploying global coherence monitoring sites around the world. And these sites are located in places like here in Northern California, Northern Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, Lithuania, and there's more that we can put in, but we've got enough now that we're getting a pretty good look at the fields from around the world. And this information goes back to our research labs in Northern California. So these sensing sites are like monitoring and looking at changes occurring in the Earth's energetic fields. Now, what we're getting from this so far is a couple things. One is we're getting a better understanding of the fields themselves, which contributes to the academic understanding of the Earth's energetic fields, because there's a lot more to know about them. Secondly, the research we've been doing has been confirming the effect that these fields are having on us, the global effect that occurs when there are changes in the fields. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Thirdly, we've been testing a hypothesis, which is what you were referring to, I think in the latter part of your question. But it's only a hypothesis this time. The hypothesis is mass human emotion, whether positive or negative, could be having a measurable effect on the Earth's energetic fields. In other words, there's almost 8 billion of us now. We all produce our own energetic fields. Collectively, are we influencing the Earth's fields? And when there's a major event in the world, whether it's an event that's shocking and not good, or one that's uplifting, when people come together at mass levels like that, could the energetic fields of the people be influencing the energetic fields of the Earth? We have reason to believe that that is true, but we're not ready to publish something yet that says that is true, right? There's more research that must be done. And I know that this has been a little frustrating for some of the people that got into Global Coherence Initiative, because they thought we could just put up a sensor in the backyard somewhere, and measure the fields. But there's so much complexity in this, and we have to do this right, because the implications of this hypothesis becoming a truth change the paradigm of how we see ourselves and how we see each other and how we see the world. So to release information too early is not a good scientific strategy, because it attracts so many people that want to challenge it if it's not done right. But the implications are that if we are truly influencing these fields, that what it would say is that every thought and feeling, every prayer, every meditation, every affirmation, all the things that we do are actually putting out a measurable energy that can affect the Earth itself.
Yeah.
And that would be big, wouldn't it? To recognize the things we do are actually be able to be looked at and measured.
Yes. I've got more to say about that, but we have to go to break now, Howard. So we'll be back in a few moments. You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with Howard Martin of Heartmath and the Global Coherence Initiative, and we'll be back with more after this break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes' flagship radio show, What Is Going On? As a long-time editor, book judge, spiritual magazine publisher and radio host, I've read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors and teachers, so I know what's worth reading and what isn't. Now, with the spiritual book market growing increasingly crowded, more and more people are seeking my help in finding the authentic voices, the empowering tools, and the genuine skip the BS guidance that will make the most difference to their spiritual development. So I decided to make it easier by bringing my knowledge, experience, and considerable network of contacts together in the No BS Spiritual Book Club. There are no ads, no joining fees, no obligations, and no BS. Just an ever-growing library compiled by recognisable and respected names of the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journeys. Plus free book excerpts, audios, and live video interviews where you can quiz them about their spiritual journeys and their 10 best list choices. Your time and money are valuable, your spiritual journey even more so. If you're looking for genuine guidance from people who've walked this path before you, check out sedgbeer.com. Click on the No BS Spiritual Book Club tab and join the club. That's sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com. I'll see you there.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Before we resume this week's conversation, here's an invitation. If you struggle with making important decisions, there's an inspiring book to check out. It's called The Necktie and the Jaguar by retired clinical psychologist, Jungian analyst and shamanic practitioner Carl Greer. In addition to revealing how he tapped into the wisdom and the power of unseen worlds for guidance and inspiration, this fascinating memoir offers some valuable keys and questions that inspire the kind of thinking that guides you effortlessly on your own path to transformation. Check it out for yourself at carlgreer.com. And now, back to Howard Martin and why we all need to add more heart into each day, into each interaction and everything we do. Howard, so you were talking earlier about the science, the Global Coherence Initiative, and the research. One of the joys that I'm experiencing right now is that after years and years and years of interviewing many, many different people, the stories are all coming together. In so many different arenas, I've heard guests talking about exactly what you said, is that we are informing the global mind. We are informing the universe at the same time as the universe is, informing us. So it truly is a relationship that we cannot untangle. Quantum entanglement, there it is, it's all depends on what we're doing as well.
Well, it's true, and I think that, in the field of the type of people that you do interview, there's a general understanding of this is true, and people are unfolding it and providing information, pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, to show that it is in fact real, that there's an interconnectivity going on between all living systems of all kinds on this planet and beyond. And a lot of voices speak to that in certain aspects of society. I think the next step, and I think that HeartMath can play a role in this because it's the kind of thing that we've been pretty good at doing in the past, is taking this down to what we'll call the street. What does this mean to someone? Why is it important? What does this mean to the single mother working 2 jobs to take care of her kids? The fact that she's connected to something bigger, great. How do we make this something that's important to her, or something that she can draw inspiration and hope from? That, I think, is the next step. The evidence is there. Taking that evidence and turning it into a practical understanding that has relevance in how someone functions within the world is the translation that we now need to take on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're actually expanding your work to look at other systems and the coherence between us. Are we talking about animals? Are we talking about trees, plants, insects?
Everything is connected.
Everything.
And one of the coolest things going on right now at HeartMath, there will be a lot more about it, is this tree research that's going on, a whole tree research project that the Institute is doing. Now, when they first started talking to me about it, I was like, wait a minute, why are y'all messing with that, And what they've done, again, is develop sensors that are detecting the electrical activity in trees. And it's really kind of cool because trees are producing a lot of electricity. Most people don't know that. And so they have developed, again, sensors that are measuring the electrical activity in trees. These sensors are being placed on trees at different locations around the world. There's a citizen science project unfolding now where people can actually get a sensor and put it on their own trees. They're working out all the bugs in that now of creating enough of the sensors, testing the sensors. There are a bunch of them out there now, but they're going through the testing phase, making sure they all work, they all interface, they all connect. Now, why are they doing this? Well, what they're showing is that trees connect with one another, that there's an exchange of information happening between trees, that there's a whole, energetic ecosystem, so to speak, of cooperation and communication happening between in nature, between trees and things. This is cool for me. It's exciting, and it just showing that everything is connected. So they didn't want to leave out the plant kingdom, So they brought the trees into the equation. So yes, animals, trees, plants, humans, off-planet, stuff. All of that is all interfaced, and we began to get a sense of these terms that we've had in the spiritual language for a long time, like oneness. And it's all one, and everything is all one, and these are all wonderful conceptual understandings that we have. And we don't have to have science to prove everything for it to be meaningful, but when science comes along and begins to help, it adds more power to that belief. And that's the only reason we're using science, right?
And that's the way to ground it, isn't it? Because, a lot of people are only going to believe it when they say that the science supports it.
We wouldn't be putting a heart-based system into all four branches of the U.S. military if we didn't have some science to back us up. Let me just say that,
Exactly. And what you're talking about with plants, you're a musician. This might appeal to you. You're familiar with the Damanhur community in Italy, and they have a device that they use to create music with the plants. And I was there in their, wonderful, wonderful magic forest a few years ago when we had a flautist in our company, and they had one of the plants hooked up to the machine, and she was playing, and then she would stop, and then the plant would sing. And this back and forth, she'd play a bit, she'd stop, the plant would sing, the plant would stop, she'd play a bit, and it was just the most incredible example of how connected we all are.
Well, it's a beautiful thing, and I hope those people have been doing okay at that place. I've never been there, but I certainly know about their place, and sound like an amazing group of people doing some really good service to the world.
Some very interesting work, yeah. Back to interesting work, let's talk a bit more about HeartMath, because you've got some, a smorgasbord now of different kind of courses and packages and things for pretty much anyone in any arena of life. You've got HeartMath mentoring certification programs, you've got certified trainers, you've got activating the hearts of teams, which I think is wonderful, because immediately with that you can go straight into the kids, the kids at school, the kids in their football teams or whatever teams, and you can be teaching them at a very early age.
That's true. Well, what we've done is we have the training, we have the technology, which is one of our biggest things, the coherence measuring technology, inner balance trainer is what it's called. Just listeners, you can go there to our website and check out inner balance trainer. It's a sensor that goes with an app, and you can use it to measure your own heart-brain-body communication internally and train yourself to become more coherent, what's called, which is a very important state. But we've also taken all that, and you mentioned these things, Sandie, into certification programs, where we certify people to be coaches and mentors. We certify people to be trainers, and we do this at multiple levels in multiple markets, down into people who work with children, schools, educators. All of that is a part of what we do. And there are thousands of these certified people around the world now. And I know you broadcast from the UK, and I've had a long business relationship with people there. We actually have HeartMath UK that exists in your country.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Go to HeartMath UK. Yeah,
I'm so used to thinking American, having lived there for so long.
I don't have as many licensees around the world as I used to. Business models have changed, but the ones that I do have now are very strong long-term relationships. So they do great work. And I have HeartMath UK, HeartMath Benelux, HeartMath Deutschland. These organizations that we work with that are really our representatives in those areas of the world. And HeartMath UK is wonderful people. They've been with us for a very long time, very professional, very caring people. So we certify people. And the reason we do that is that we recognize that we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. And we're not going to do all that from here in our little mountain town in Northern California, even with all the ways in which we can communicate now that are electronic, that we need people, face-to-face, human interaction, to really make the transmission the strongest it can be. And so we certify people to go out and coach others, or people that do workshops or training programs. They can be certified to teach HeartMath in that context. We also do this for health professionals. The largest number of people that we certify are actually health professionals. And we have certification courses for them of how they integrate HeartMath tools, techniques, and technology into their medical practices. And all of these certifications and the people involved in them are important. They all serve different roles. But one of the things about the health professionals that I find is really interesting is how many people they actually see. Meaning that someone who coaches somebody, I don't know how many people they coach in a week. Maybe they coach 5 people, the professionals, or maybe 10. But how many people does a health professional see in a week?
Yeah.
And they are sometimes, let's start our session now, and it's going to be just simple stuff. Let's start our sessions with a HeartMath technique so you and I can sync up better, Let's try the inner balance trainer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes so I can get a reading of your heart rate variability patterns, And they use it in different ways, and they integrate it into what they already do. And it's just reaching so many people with HeartMath that are actually open to it in many cases because they're dealing with a problem, or they wouldn't be seeing the health professional. So if the health professional gives them some experience like that, and then maybe says to them, and you should practice these techniques, or maybe even get yourself an inner balance trainer, that multiplies the effect of HeartMath. And so the certification part of what we do is an amplification of what we do here in Northern California. It allows us to have more people who are out there in their societies and in their towns and in their communities applying HeartMath to the folks that they're around in various ways. So it's an important part of how we try to expand our mission.
Yeah. One that I particularly want to mention is the Resilient Heart, the trauma-sensitive HeartMath certification. And this is for professionals working in therapeutic relationships with individuals who've experienced trauma. And, there's a lot of people that really need that.
Yeah, it's a huge course, and it was born from exactly that. People we were working with, professionals that dealt with trauma, and the kind of trauma that they dealt with, I don't even want to try to describe on your show.
Yeah.
But they were the ones that were doing that kind of work. And so this is a very, very long, in-depth program about trauma and trauma treatment. And it was the lead producer on that is a HeartMath Institute person, Jarena Abers, and she is a physician. She's a pediatric neurologist. So she understands that stuff well. We brought in lots of different experts to be a part of that program, and they appear in the program. And it's for trauma people. But here's what's interesting, Sandie, is very recently we have said if an individual who's not a health practitioner wants to take that, they can take it. So we've opened it up a little bit. We found that people do. Even though they're not going to ever be a practitioner dealing with trauma. They are people who have been dealing with trauma themselves, and they're said that they're gaining something of value from the programs. I don't know how that's going to work out long term, because it is a very in-depth clinical program for, I think, primarily for the health professionals that have the professional acumen and accreditation to take that information and use it to help people who've gone through these very, very traumatic experiences in their life.
Yeah. You're also in a number of hospitals. Is that working with patients, like you're teaching doctors and nurses and healthcare workers to work with patients using HeartMath skill set, or is it, are you using, are they using it themselves?
Mostly them use it themselves.
Yeah.
We've been in the hospital market for a long time, and it's been great, and we've had huge success in that market in helping the health practitioners deal with the challenges that they face. And now with COVID, this has been even more important. So ultimately, they do pass it on to patients. But this is being done to actually help the professionals who have to do this work every single day deal with the challenges that they face. And we've trained thousands and thousands of these people. We train in large hospital systems. And I love this part of our work as well because, again, when we talk about taking something like heart from the spiritual down into the street, what better place to do it than through people like health professionals who are down in the trenches dealing with very ill people day after day and trying to manage their own lives and the stress associated with that. That's where, again, it just starts to take on another level of meaningfulness of what heart means when it's put into the world. So hospitals is a big deal for us. And most of our organizational training today is in hospitals. We don't do as much in companies as we used to, but we do more than ever in the hospital settings, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question that you probably will say, I can't answer that, but I'll ask it anyway. What are you most proud of that, that HeartMath and CGI have accomplished in this past 25 years?
Well, it's a good question, Sandie. I think what I'm most proud of is that we have done a lot to help validate many other people's belief systems. And I say that because people many, many times in many contexts have told me, thank you, HeartMath, for what you've done. If you hadn't done what you've done, I wouldn't be here right now doing what I do. Because they needed someone to step up and make it all real. They needed the scientific validation. They needed the success that we've had to prove that it can be successful. They needed that solid underpinning to step forward and to share their information with a new level of confidence and assurity, and they can draw upon us. There are, I don't know how many thousands now, 10,000s, more than that, I think. Huge amount of references to our work in other people's books, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends who've told me stuff like, I read somebody's book, I'm really enjoying it. I'm just waiting to get to the place where they talk about HeartMath.
Yeah.
And they use it to ground out and verify their own information. I see that as a good thing. Some people might see it as something that you're being plagiarized, or they're borrowing too much from your work. I don't think that that's the intention these people have at all. I think that what they're doing is they're drawing from something that we put out to the world that can help them to share their message better. And in doing so, I think we amplify the bigger message, which you talked about a minute ago when you said so many of the authors and things, you've seen it come together. So what I'm most proud of is that we've been helping in that regard to bring it all together and to give people and empower people, not just authors and speakers, but people in general, to go into the world and do what they do and to do it with more confidence and more heart.
Yeah. Wow. And you did hint earlier on about how being with HeartMath has changed something in you. What else would you say has changed? I mean, how different are you now from the person you were when you started?
Well, it's so long ago that it's difficult to make that comparison, but let's just say that the road that I ended up on and where it has led me is probably a very different road than the one I would have been on, right? It's easy to see. I can only do it through comparison by looking at other people's lives in a way and say, okay, here's the friends that I had back when I was a rock musician, for example, and where are they in their life right now? And many of them are dead, for starters. And the ones that aren't, it doesn't mean they have bad lives or anything. A lot of them don't. But they just don't have the same spirit of adventure that I have. Mm-hmm. They don't have the health that I have. They don't have the passion for life and for doing something that I seem to have. They may be happy, they may be doing fine, but I think the biggest difference is I could have had a life that was a good life, but I don't think that I would have had a life that would have been as extraordinary as the one I'm having if I hadn't learned to listen to and follow my heart. And that's the kind of difference I can see. Is like, don't know how it would have been, but if I look at life in general and other people and even people that I know and see what their lives are like and what lives for most folks are like, and then compare that to what I have to say that something else happened for me. And the only thing that can explain it is that I went for it. And I tried to apply my heart's intelligence to what I did in life.
And I'm glad you went for it and you're still doing it. Howard Martin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandie.
Always a pleasure. And don't forget, free access to the HeartMath experience, heartmath.com/experience. And you can learn more about the Global Coherence Initiative and expanding your capacity to love at heartmath.org/GCI. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back again at the same time next week with another edition of What Is Going On. Till then, it's goodbye from me. And a good goodbye from me.